to talk to you, the regular Joes.
To movies and toys and TV shows, comics and collecting and superheroes. There's no end to the useless stuff they know. But don't call them geeks, they're just regular Joes.
Welcome to the Regular Joe's podcast. I'm Dave Pisani.
I'm Barry Kay.
And I'm Todd Pleasant.
We're going to talk about a movie. Have we talked about a movie recently? Yeah, we talked about something.
Well, I haven't been to the movies since Deadpool.
Deadpool.
Yeah, Deadpool was the last movie.
Well, that was recent. But before that, it seems like a long time.
Does, yeah.
We all saw Alien Romulus. I said at one point, I'm not going to go see it. I said that a couple weeks or months ago, but I've been hearing a lot of good things, so I wanted to see it. So we'll see if those things were true for all of us or not, and we'll figure out what the hell's going on.
Yeah, it was just good to go see a movie. I mean, other than, again, Deadpool, but it was nice to see something, you know, it feels like it's been a year without a lot of movies.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes it's nice to see a movie that you're not like, oh my God, it's coming in 6 months. It's coming in 2 months. It's here. It's like, I'll go see it.
This one kind of was like they talked about it. It was going to happen, and then it was here. And so,
yeah, I'm with you. I was not following along with the making of the movie and the marketing of the movie and behind the scenes.
I didn't see any trailers,
really much of anything. I'd seen trailers.
I tend not to like Wolverine. I didn't want to see any. This I just didn't, but it's fine. So we'll talk about that. Did we like it? Did we not like it? Where does it fit in the 7 Alien movies, not including the Alien versus Predator movies? Yeah. I'm not including those. Just Alien. There's 7. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that is crazy. What else was there? There was something else. There's a lot of, like we were talking about last week. We were talking about Terminators. How many Terminator movies? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6?
Okay, so this is the thing with Terminator movies, though. Like, didn't some of those movies like negate the other movies ever happening? So, like, can we just forget they exist now?
I don't think so.
So,
I don't think they did. Did they?
I think if you kill John Connor at the
but it's an alternate universe. I don't think that negates
at the beach house. It's
the other one.
Those other movies don't happen.
Todd, have a little freaking respect. That's a very sensitive thing for Barry.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
You don't bring that stuff up.
Not acknowledge the significance of the second finest Terminator film. So,
yeah,
I agree. I'm with you.
Now we're back. Now it's the second finest Terminator film.
I think
Jesus Christ.
Well, it could be better than the first one.
Yeah, it could. So,
I don't think so.
Definitely the third.
I got it. Yeah. Oh yeah.
We should do a whole show about that.
Yeah.
We've done it like
what Barry needs.
Let me know how that show goes, guys.
Another hour's life.
We have done that show.
Yeah.
I think we have. I think you're right.
I fully think it's third. Terminator 2, Terminator 1, Dark Fate, 3, and then the other ones just suck.
I guess.
And 3 kind of really sucks, but kind of almost sucks.
Yeah.
But there's some okay stuff in it. Like the nuanced performance of Chris Hardwick as the fat
computer operator.
Yeah. God, I'd forgotten that.
Yeah. Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about another bloated franchise and how many of those movies actually are any good. But we'll get to that in a second. Let's go some random. Todd, what do you got?
So, it's been reported that Elizabeth Olsen is going to be in the Vision series. Now
I saw that. I didn't read it, but I saw that.
Now there's rumors floating around that she will be, but she's not playing either Wanda or the Scarlet Witch.
Is she playing
Doctor
She's
I was
going to
ask
play
if
Doctor
she's playing
Doom. Yes.
Victor Von Doom, maybe?
Yep.
Victoria Von Doom, perhaps?
That's it. She knows she can play. Exactly. Yeah. I don't know.
Are they going to irrevocably destroy the Marvel universe with this kind of wacky shit?
There's a really great Vision story from maybe 5-6 years ago that they kind of ripped off for WandaVision. Okay, where Vision basically like built a robot family for himself, and he was living in the suburbs, and it was very, very good. But there's no way they can go there. So but people are speculating that she's going to be Virginia Vision, who was the character, who was the wife analog from that movie. And it's like, no, you can't tell that story because you already inverted it and made it, Wanda's made up story. So.
Do we need a Vision series at this point?
I don't see. I don't know. I think it could be interesting. They're also talking about Ultron being in there, either cameo or flashbacks, or still being out there somewhere. That could be interesting since they grossly misused that character the first time.
Dave, I'll answer your question. No, we don't need a Vision series.
Thank you. I don't think we do. Do we need an Agatha series?
Okay.
No, we don't need.
I don't think so either. If I had to choose between the two, I would go to Vision series, and I would end the Vision series with her digging her out from under Mount Wundagore, and so.
And I all joking aside, I like both the Vision and the Wanda character. I would like to see more of them. I just don't know to bring her in and have her play some other character doesn't make sense.
And they cannot have her be an alternate version of herself. It's just like they've done that so many times.
See, and I agree. I like the Vision character, and I like the Wanda character, and those have both been ruined.
So the only thing I'm wondering whether it's flashbacks or it's something, because he's supposed to be.
But then she would be.
He's supposed to be
like
basically. This is his journey to get his personality back. So maybe he's remembering her and remembering, the stuff they had and whatnot. I don't know. We'll see.
But are they at the point where they're putting stars that will attract people just for the sake of that, as opposed to driving the story forward? I think they've clearly done that with Robert Downey Jr., but I would like to see a poll of real Marvel fans who thinks that's a good idea. I mean, we all think it's a bad idea.
Particularly when there are so many people pissed off about how Wanda's story ended. So, it's okay. She's, we really sacrificed this character, but let's just bring her back and have her be somebody else. She works. She's a barista where he gets his coffee now. Yeah,
stupid. They've all had. Well, I don't like the way Vision had a good ending in Endgame. He basically sacrificed himself to accomplish something, and we didn't need this. We don't need any of it. Anyway, they suck. Barry, what do you got?
Well, I'm going to follow on Todd's story, and I don't know if either of you saw this, but apparently, according to The Hollywood Reporter, Robert Downey Jr. confirmed he will not be playing a Tony Stark variant, but he is actually playing Victor Von Doom in Doomsday and Secret Wars. And then
that's halfway better.
He goes on to say,
"But we still don't need."
And I don't. Is Susan Robert Downey Jr.'s wife? Because he refers to Sue.
Yeah,
okay,
that's his wife.
So he says, Susan and I were sitting down with Feige at one point. He said, "It just keeps occurring to me that if you were to come back," and Susan was like, "Wait, what do you mean, come back?" Then we both realized over time that it was another thing that just disproves any. This is weird the way this is written. Any doubt anybody could ever have about that guy. A very sophisticated, creative thinker about how he cannot go backwards, how we cannot disappoint expectations, how we can continue to beat expectations. And he brought up Victor Von Doom. And I looked up the character and I was like, wow, Later, Kevin goes, "Let's get Victor Von Doom right. Let's get that right." That was the extent of the quote.
I read that a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
So again,
They don't need him.
we haven't really seen him act because, again, the archetype of Tony Stark was Robert Downey Jr. So we've seen him act do other things. I think he's just got to play it as a completely different character. And
We all love the character of Tony Stark and his portrayal of that character and his larger than life, and he's snarky, and we love all that. And obviously, Victor Von Doom's not that character,
Right, he's not, and that's where. But he's also played thoroughly unlikable characters before. They've just,
It's
like
too
I said,
confusing. I think for the hardcore people, it's not good, and for the people who don't really know, it's confusing.
it's a distraction,
And it goes back to the maybe if we never
Clive
see his
Owen.
face,
Let's have Clive Owen
or
in
maybe if he's heavily
Oh, no.
covered in prosthetics or something. But I just don't know why you'd pay Robert Downey Jr. all that money to not show his face.
It's just makes
because
no sense.
it's going to get a hell of a lot of people into the theater.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I know
Honestly,
we're still a couple years out.
He
and
wasn't
it'll-
in most of the scenes that he was in.
No,
so-
of course not.
You know, it's
But it's just like The Mandalorian. You know,
that exactly.
it's Brendan
Exactly.
Wayne in almost every scene we see him in,
Well,
and not
If they recast the Mandalorian, people would be incensed. But the reality is, it wouldn't be any different.
Well, just like Woody and what's his face, Woody and Buzz. I mean, they people go to hear Tom Hanks or his brother, one or the other.
they buy the toys
But-
to hear his brother.
Yeah, exactly. And the cartoons. He does the cartoons that are not movies too.
Interesting.
Anyway, what do I got? So here's a little random fact. So I think I mentioned last. Speaking of aliens, so Reebok is coming, or did come, or whatever, out with Alien Romulus shoes. The main character Rain wears Reeboks that are similar to what Ripley wore. So they came out last night at midnight. I was out for 13 hours at the U.S. Open in the heat, yet came home and stayed up to midnight to see if I can get a pair. They were not super expensive. So they even had a counter on their website, counting down. You know, it's counting down. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2,
Barry, is
0.
this going to end well? I don't think this is going to end well.
No, this is not going to end well. I told you
And
that
at
this
zero-
is my experience in the past with shoes.
Yeah, at 0, the site crashed, and I read some people I for 25 minutes I went in, didn't go in, couldn't get in, got stuff in my card, couldn't get to the card, paid for it with Apple Pay, and it went through, and it didn't. Needless to say, I did not get any shoes. I certainly, if I am getting one, they're not my size, so I don't know. So it was really...
This has been my
it just-
experience every time that they've put out
With
either
all that
Back
stuff.
to the Future or Alien shoes. I never was able to get them.
I'm a little surprised that there were that many people who were into it that it crashed.
But Dave, you're not up against sci-fi nerds. You're up against sneaker collectors, and they're
That's
just
right,
as
and
bad
they're-
or not worse than we are.
Oh, yeah. No, they are
so you're getting both
far
of them.
worse. Yep.
And they're good looking. Like the Ripley ones, as cool as they are in thought, I wouldn't wear those. These I would wear. So anyway, that sucks. They did say they may restock them though, so who the hell knows? Maybe they're not. I don't know that they said they're limited.
It was like that when Columbia first started making exclusive Star Wars stuff too. As year after year of them doing that, it's gotten easier to buy that stuff, and usually I end up not buying it. But yeah, the shoes,
because it's
shoes
overpriced.
because they did that with Back to the Future also. Like
Yeah.
I want to say it was 5
Nike.
years ago, but it was probably 10 years ago. They reissued the
Yeah.
self-lacing Nikes, and you couldn't get them.
I know. I was bummed out because I'm like, oh, I'm here. I stayed up. Everyone in the house is exhausted and asleep, but I'm waiting here, and I'm like, yes, 0. I'm in, and then crash,
Yeah.
and it's funny. What night was it? That was Monday. Saturday night we had people over. Their daughter goes to college down south or something. They're telling it's like the third year. They're telling here's moving in, and here's her roommates. I'm like, I don't care. It's like the kid's been in school for 3 years. No offense. I don't think they listen. And then they're like, and so and so and so and so, and and the father's getting us all backpack or tote bags, and because And then I heard, because he's the CEO of Reebok. And I'm like, wait a second. And now I'm listening. Your daughter's roommate or one of your is the CEO of Reebok. Well, I'm sending you this picture, and then you need to text her, and I need these in size 12. So she said she'd ask. So
Nice.
We'll see.
So maybe you have an in then, because
Yeah,
that's
anyway.
crazy.
One other quick thing: Ted Lasso is getting a season 4.
That
It's not a genre thing.
Was on my list too, and
Is that for certain?
it's been everywhere this week. It's been highly
Yeah, it
reported.
sounds like it.
It is, but it's actually happening. It's not like because the first thing I read said that some cast members.
They originally talked about it being a spin-off, and now I think they've gotten all the primary cast to agree to come back, including what's his name, Ted.
Jason
Sudeikis. Thank you.
So Todd, when Sean tells you should watch this, you could watch it now.
Or maybe wait for us to see if we tell you that it's good. It'll be good.
I will watch it. Yeah. So
I loved all 3 seasons of that show. I will say I think that it was progressively less awesome each season, but it was still awesome.
Yeah, it was good. It was just a lot of fun.
I don't think they knew what to do with the third season. The third season was a very long coda, and it was just, which makes me really hope that they have a good idea for what to do with a fourth season.
But it's one of those shows that there's a lot of it's normal. So there's not like, oh, they got to go back to a multi-universe and do. They just bring
Ted Lasso goes back in time and changes history.
I know. Imagine that. That would be funny.
You could call it Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. Oh wait, we've seen that movie.
Yeah.
Any other random?
Yeah, real quick. So on the theme of things coming back or whatever, apparently they're making a Pacific Rim series at Legendary. Legendary is making a Pacific Rim series.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like that's one of the things that came out. Oh, this is great. Then the second one came out, and everyone's like, I'm over that. And now...
I love the idea of giant robots fighting kaijus, and the first Pacific Rim was great. I've never seen the second one.
Yeah, second one's nothing special.
I haven't seen it either.
I heard it wasn't good, so I didn't bother with it.
I really did like the first one, though.
Me too.
Yeah. It's a great idea.
Well, you know what?
Todd, you got anything
After
else?
the success of that Monarch show, maybe this could be good.
Maybe.
I mean, I had low expectations for Monarch, and I really liked it.
That's a good
so.
point. I hadn't thought about that, but yeah. Yep.
So it'll be the giant robot just standing around for 13 episodes, waiting for 2 minutes for the
big
monsters
fight
to
at the
show
end?
up. Yeah.
As long
So
as there's
we'll wait
good
for it.
story in between, maybe it'll be okay. And
You know who's
and
okay? Fanboy Collectibles.
It's gonna be 10 episodes of trying to find the keys to start the robot.
I was just gonna say maybe it would be a prequel. I think it actually is meant to be a prequel that leads up to the first movie. So,
That's fine.
but you know who else?
You know
Not a
who leads
prequel?
up to the first movie? Wait, what did you just say?
You know it's not a prequel?
And I was gonna say, you know who else is awesome? So we were all trying to tee up there.
Fanboy Collectibles.
Yes.
Okay, Hot Toy Chewy with disassembled C-3PO.
Yep, I ordered that today.
Oh, you did?
Yes.
Nice. Yeah, that looks cool. Here's something we don't talk about. Ash from
Army of Darkness.
Army of Darkness. That's
Army of
actually
Darkness.
a really
I
great
wrote
looking
an
statue.
acronym.
There's a lot of motion and action in that pose for that statue. It's really cool.
There's a cool thing.
Yeah.
Something's in stock, and I wrote in stock, and I did not write next to what I was talking about. I saw
Is it the
was,
Tweeterhead DC comic Two-Face quarter-scale maquette? Because that's pretty cool.
It was not that. Sorry, I'm going to the website. It did not. I did not write down
What
what
about
it was.
the
But
Iron
there's Pops
Studios
and Sideshow
DC
and-
Comics Wonder Woman Unleashed art scale statue, which is also really awesome.
Oh no, it was something I talked about last weekend. That's why.
Okay.
That's last week. That's why it was. But there's so much on there. I'll go through. Here's Pops. Oh wow, there's an Alien Romulus pop. I did not see that.
That's cool. Yeah, I see that now.
There's Hot Toys and statues. I'm just going through everything, and there's a knockoff of the guy from that Pedro Pascal zombie show, whatever that's called.
The Last of Us?
The Last of Us. There's a Prime 1 Studios Alien Xenomorph Egg open version. There's a giant Batmobile. I'd never really go through the thing, but they have everything. There's so much stuff there. Check those guys out, fanboycollectibles.com. Check them out at their store in Newtown, Connecticut, Monday through Friday. Tell them the regular Joe sent you. Cool. Todd, you had something?
Oh, so thinking back, we also two things. One, Karen listened to our show from 2 weeks ago, and basically asked me why I was disagreeing with you on everything, Dave. So one of the things that she brought up specifically was the hat thing. How I was saying, no, you wouldn't trade everything you had for just the hat. Remember the hat? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you didn't get the hat, right? You didn't.
The $630,000
You did not get
hat?
the $630,000 hat.
We
Okay.
have
Am I
not
in a
talked about
Motel 6
what
right
we
now?
did or did not buy in that auction because we're going to save that until we receive
Okay,
our items.
but we're just no spoilers.
I did not
you
buy a
the hat.
$600,000 hat.
So
Nor did I.
okay, I want to know what each of your one thing, if you could have any one thing like that, okay?
Haven't we done that?
So,
but
no, but
I'm
saying,
happy
it's been
to
a long
always
time,
do it again.
But I'm saying, so it's
Yeah.
one. You can have one prop, and you're basically this is going to be sitting in the middle of a white room. Okay, you still can have your stuff, but I'm saying
So
this
we
is
don't
like-
have to have this instead of everything else we own.
No, because that's a ridiculous premise.
Yeah,
and that's
that's
why I was
hard.
arguing with Dave. But anyways, what is your one original thing that you would have that would be? And again, you can only have one, but it's there, and obviously it has to pass the mom test. But that's yeah. What would you pick, Barry? You know?
I do know. So
That's a
Dave, if
tough
you need time to think,
thing.
I can jump in first.
You can go. I that changes, but
I have to say, I think it's the 5-foot Millennium Falcon that's sitting in Lucasfilm archives right now.
Yep.
We talked about that. I was fortunate enough to spend a lot of time around that model earlier this year. And
that's why they have a restraining order against you.
Yes, and to say that I fell in love with it is an understatement. I was already in love with it, but I don't remember how much we talked about this stuff, and I don't think I'm saying anything I shouldn't say. But I had a point in time where I was left alone to photograph that for reasons that whatever I was there for, so I probably spent 45 minutes just looking at every angle, every panel, everything on that ship. I think if I could have anything from any movie, anything, that would be that. Now I would need the big white room because the thing is gigantic,
Right.
but yeah, that would probably be the one. If I could only have one, that would be the one.
That was my call for you. That was. I have mine for Dave. But Dave, what do you got?
It's funny, and with all these auctions, and I'm not taking commercial ideas into it. I'm just taking the. I'll give you my answer, then I'll give you what I'm talking about. I'd probably say Luke's lightsaber from Star Wars, the hilt, or Empire. I would take Empire too, but. That to me is iconic but then the other thing is I could say a phaser, but there's a lot of phasers. I mean, they're popping up all over the place. So I don't know. Do we even know where Luke's lightsaber is? I mean,
well,
there's not a lot of them.
There was more than one for sure.
Yeah.
I know, and I don't know which one Hamill has, but Hamill has one of them. I don't know which movie it's from.
Yeah.
But he definitely has one.
There may be 3 of those. That I could see in a case, and you could look at that and be like, that's the one, I think.
Okay.
Todd, what about you?
Well, I was going to give you the Enterprise right out of the Smithsonian. And so...
Yeah. That's almost hard to look at. It's so big.
Well,
but
again,
was
that was
the
my
way I feel
my
about
thing
the
for
Falcon, but then again, I would find...
But that's 12
way.
feet versus 5 feet.
No,
Yeah.
it's true.
Yeah, it is, but you get it sitting in the middle of a room. So I would go Kirk's chair. the original. I'd want to sit on it and touch it. I wouldn't want it in a glass case. And
yeah, well, that we know where that one is.
Yeah, and so
that's in Seattle.
Yeah. But like I said, yeah, just walk in, sit in it, read a book, whatever. It would just be, actual.
That's that kind. They're all iconic. Yeah, I mean, I'd love a phaser. The hat is pretty awesome.
Again, it's
there's a lot of hats, but
it's and again with the cost, the price of that, it's not like one hat was used for every. You know what I'm saying? It's like it is.
Yeah.
One.
There's a lot of hats, but but some of them look more like what you expect them to look like than others, and that one in that auction was probably the best one that's ever come
awesome.
up for sale.
Right.
It
yes,
was
I agree with that.
waterlogged,
It just seems like an ungodly amount of money for something that there.
Oh, it is. Oh, yeah. Forget the money.
And it's screen matched and all. I get all that, but it's like.
But not only is it screen match, it's screen matched to multiple scenes and to Harrison Ford and the stuntman. So Ford. It's all over that movie in a way that some of the other hats probably aren't.
Yeah.
But, and we're not talking about how much it would cost to buy these things, but when I think about what an X-Wing or a Y-Wing sold for, when I extrapolate that out to the Falcon, which there was one 5-foot Falcon, there wasn't multiples of those, like... it's not ever going to come up for sale, but if it did, I can't even imagine what that would be.
You know what I think back to that, I think it was the making of Empire Strikes Back, like the documentary that came out, whatever. They showed that they made those in a bunch of scales. I would love to just have that one that's like 2 inches that they use for when it's flying next to the Star Destroyer, and just have that in this massive lucite case, because that came up, and that's $1 million, I bet.
Probably, because
that'd be awesome.
I don't believe, and I could be wrong, I don't think any Falcons of any scale ever left Lucasfilm the way and the X-Wings or the TIE Fighters did. Or apparently Y-Wings too, because we know that there's at least 1 or 2 of those out there.
Yeah, but
you mentioned Seattle. I heard this the other day. So Rancho Obi-Wan is doing a fundraiser, but they're not doing it at Rancho Obi-Wan. They're actually doing it at the Mopop Museum in Seattle.
Oh, really?
And they're doing that partially because they can only fit like 120 people at the Rancho Obi-Wan space, so they want to be able to have more people. And they're also doing it so that you can not only do their fundraiser, but you can see the Mopop Museum. And they're I think you can add on a tour of Gus Lopez's house and a tour. I forget the name of the woman. There's another woman in Seattle who's got a really big Star Wars collection as well. And they're doing tours of both of those houses and collections, plus the Mopop Museum and the Rancho Obi-Wan fundraiser.
Wow,
that's pretty cool. How much do we have to pay to do that?
I didn't look up to see how much it is yet, but I know it's
less
coming
than a
up.
Hat.
I think it's this October. Oh, way less than a hat, but
I'm still thinking of buying the actual hat. Every time I see a hat go up for go up for auction, I want to buy one of the Herbert Johnson, and they keep going up in money. I mean, it's $500, but it still would be cool to have. And now
but
they're
it's
totally
not going to look like the hat from
that
Raiders.
Seems like a bargain.
But it's not going to look like the hat from Raiders. Nothing they make looks like that.
I know, but at least it's cool to have something that's for $500 that's made by the same people that made the original hat, and they're totally leaning into it. Even a year and a half ago, you'd buy it. Now it comes with the gold initials, and it comes with all the stuff. Pretty cool. Anyway, so Todd, when are you buying those things for us?
I'm working on it.
You need
Meanwhile, the 3 things we named, no one's selling.
Yeah,
no one's selling.
Will never be for sale ever. But
I mean, Brandon's. I wonder if he'll ever sell. He's got the Jedi.
Yeah, Brandon Allinger has a Jedi lightsaber. He's one of the prop store guys.
Never sell it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're, and I do think, while I know everybody loves Empire, and I love Empire too, I do think that there's something even extra special about having something from the original Star Wars movie, even more so than Jedi or Empire.
I agree.
Because there's also a few. That's why I think I'd lean towards that, even though I think the one in Empire is a little sleeker.
Well, and so much of the stuff that did last from the first movie got repurposed for future movies too.
Yeah, true. The problem is now, even like the prequels, you can't open an auction book without a prequel lightsaber being in there. I mean, there's just thousands of them. It feels like it's ridiculous.
It does feel like it, and you have to wonder: are there just that many in public hands, or is it the same 2 or 3 that just keep turning over every 6 months or 12 months?
I don't know. I would like a pulse rifle too. Speaking of pulse rifles, those are easier to get. So, Alien Romulus, like I said, I wasn't planning on seeing it, and then word of mouth, I heard some good word of mouth from not just critics, but just somebody really swayed me. I can't remember who it was. Maybe people on the RPF.
Yeah, I'm with you. I started to hear a lot of good things about it, and I've mentioned this before. There's a podcast I listened to. 3 different movie reviewers have a podcast together. It's called Real Blend. And they were all really raving. Well, 2 of them were raving about it. One of them had big issues with it, but the 2 that were raving were pretty convincing.
I would have been perfectly content to see this when it was on TV, and I'm glad I saw it. So, yeah. I had, again, it was barely on my radar, and it was like, yeah, whatever. I do not think the trailers do it justice at all. And I think it was very good. And I was hugely surprised at how good it was. And I've also read mixed reviews where, people say this, people say it's too derivative, people say that, but it captures the soul of
these
films better than anything they've done since Aliens. So
I agree with that. I had 2 pretty big issues with it, but not enough that they distracted from my ability to enjoy it. But there was 1 or 2 things that I was just like, oh, I really wish that they either explained that or didn't do that. I had both of those moments. One thing I wanted an explanation for, which I have subsequently gotten by doing research, which I shouldn't have to do. And the other one, I was just like, nope, they definitely shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, interesting. We'll get to those.
Yeah, I'm holding them back for further discussion.
The thing that got me is...
Oh,
go ahead.
They took a very known universe, and they played with it in ways they can do now they couldn't have done decades ago, and they did it really, really well. And it wasn't like they did some very, very cool special effects things in this that, again, weren't possible until much more recently, but made perfect sense in the way they did it. It wasn't gratuitous, and
they found a way to tell a story that fit in between Alien and Aliens without breaking anything and without completely, having to retcon everything, or they found a way to shoehorn the story in a way that
it was nice
that
they, I agree with that. The thing that got me, I was reading more about the director, because I'm like, here's another guy who's just taking Alien franchise and doing what they want with it, but from the couple things I read, he's really, really into the Alien franchise and has a lot of respect for it. And I mean, good or bad, he definitely had Ridley Scott's company was a producing partner, and although Ridley Scott made 2 of the crappy ones, he did have his support in this, and I think he really loved the franchise, and was looking to do it justice.
And I think that showed because there were a couple of obvious throwbacks and references, but there were a lot of less obvious Easter eggs and throwbacks and references.
This was an homage to these films in a way the other successors haven't been. The other successors have been an attempt to top it or restart it or go in another direction. This took the tools that they had, all the pieces that they had. There was nothing here that was super unique. It was just they played with it in a different way and made an interesting story by doing that. I was talking to somebody,
and the story is super simple, which is nice.
It was super simple,
and it does fit into this universe really, really well.
I was talking
better than any of the other
someone
stuff.
about this film yesterday, and I said, I'm trying to decide whether this is the Aliens Force Awakens or the Aliens Rogue One. think about that.
I like them both,
Right.
so
No,
I
but
don't
what I'm
agree
saying
with that
is-
mindset.
It's a very familiar story. They retold it with different characters. Same, very, very similar story. Retold it with different characters, shifted some pieces around, but it ended exactly the same. Then the alternative is you go back and it fills in a missing piece. It just, you go back into the
I feel
untold
like
story and it fills that in and using characters.
I feel it did both of those.
Yeah, it's just-
because I know there's people who don't like Force Awakens.
I'm saying metaphorically though. I'm not saying it's.
No. But what? Here's the thing, and some of the things that at first glance I did not like was there are some things. Again, spoilers. Again, if you haven't seen it, go see it. But if you haven't seen it, there were things that were blatantly derivative of other stuff. But then if I take a step back, and I think that's the same thing that's true of The Force Awakens, and I know you don't give it the pass for this, but I did, and I do for this. I'm curious what the number is. My guess is 75% of the people who see this have never seen Alien or Aliens.
And it makes it okay. And that's why I was saying.
And it makes it okay for them to get those moments. And hopefully, hang on a second, hopefully they weren't really hitting us fans over the head with them so dramatically that we didn't say, "Oh my God, that's just too much."
With one
it was
exception,
just a little bit.
With
and
one
that was
exception,
the core of my that was the core of my Force Awakens analogy. You can watch that movie having not seen the other stuff, okay? And I know
look at
people
the
that
cast.
did.
We go back to
I know people that did.
The young, beautiful. Well, I don't know if
Yeah.
they're beautiful. The young cast that they're trying to make an Aliens for the next generation while still making it good for our generation, I think. And
yeah.
Todd, finish what you're saying, and then Barry,
No, that
I
was
wanna hear
pretty
what
much what I was saying. I'm saying that it's that same kind of thing where they if somebody could watch this as their first Aliens movie, okay?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And look,
What was your issue, Barry?
So you go back to Star Wars, and there are lines of dialogue that get repeated throughout films, and it's a catchphrase or it's something that you go, "Oh, that's funny. They use that same line again." "Get away from her, you bitch" should not have been in this movie. It was so shoehorned
I didn't
in.
like that either.
It was so shoehorned in. It didn't even really make sense. And that line
what's so funny?
shouldn't have been. It's not, "I've got a bad feeling about this," where they repeat it in every movie. That line was said once in the perfect situation in Aliens. It didn't fit in this movie. It kind of pissed me off.
I will
I
say,
agree with you, and I was waiting for the way he said it was like staggered. I was hoping he was going to say something different at
me
the
too.
end.
I would have been
If he'd
okay
said,
with that.
You monster or
You dick.
you beast.
Dick would have been good.
No, but I'm saying it just would have been. It would have been. Yes, I agree with that.
That
I will
line
say
should
that would have
only
been
live
an homage
with
enough
Ripley
Being in
and
the role
Alien
of
different
Crane.
enough.
protector. Okay, that's kind of inversion. Okay,
But it wasn't an alien queen anyway. We don't know that it was even female. So
Oh,
I know it does. I agree. It doesn't make sense. Here's the thing I want to know: how many different versions of that did they shoot? You bastard! You dick!
Right.
I guarantee they shot everything. I wish I was really like. It almost felt like that line took a minute for them to get through, and I'm
agree.
like, he's got to
if
say
it
something.
had even
different.
just been
Even if
"get
he
the hell
said-
away from
if he
her"
just
or
said
something.
you, and then trailed off.
There's
You know,
something
it's like-
derivative would have been better than the exact line of dialogue. I
I agree with that. It didn't fit.
really
I will
pissed
agree.
me off in the theater.
And,
I have
and
to
I'll
say.
tell you, I don't know how it was in your theater, but it didn't land well.
No,
So-
So let me just spend a
think
second
I
talking
don't
about my
remember.
theater.
Yeah.
So I took my son up to college this weekend. He and I went to see it Friday night. We're in a theater that was built in 1940 as one massive theater with a giant balcony that they have carved up into 10 separate theaters.
That's what our local theater is. Yeah,
So the screen in the very small theater we were in isn't even centered in the room. So for us to be center
I hate
screen,
that.
we had to be all the way to the left. But not only that, they didn't dim the lights dark enough. And there was a spotlight shining on what used to be the railing for the balcony, which was casting a shadow on the screen. So I did not see this in the optimal situation. And it wasn't dark enough. So there's probably some visual stuff that I lost out on, and just based on the way I saw it. It just wasn't dark enough in there. The sound was great, and it was nice reclining seats, but it was a small screen and not very... I think I sent you guys a picture of the theater I was in.
Yeah. I'm glad I saw it at the big... I went a time that I didn't really want to go, that didn't work, because it was in the big theater at the Alamo versus the small theater. But anyway.
There were a couple of other lines of dialogue that were direct repeats of lines of dialogue from other films, which didn't bother me at all. Like when Adam said, I prefer the term artificial person myself. That's a direct line.
Yeah, that's a
like,
normal.
that was fine.
Also,
It's Andy. It's not
Oh,
Adam.
yeah, Andy. I'm sorry. And then at one point, Rook says, I can't lie about your chances, but you have my sympathies. That's exactly what Ash said. And I have no problem with that.
They have the same program.
They're the same thing.
Right.
The thing.
And no problem with that.
Okay.
It was the
we talk
bitch
about
line.
Can we talk about Rook, Ash a little bit?
Yeah.
I thought that was great. I really did. And yes, it did not look perfect.
It totally works in its...
It did not look perfect, but again, he's a copy of a copy.
It was close enough that it didn't bother me.
It was close enough. I thought, they did this entirely with Ian Holmes' family's permission.
Yep.
They went beyond getting their permission. They showed them the scenes and got their permission again afterwards, after they filmed it. So they were totally, and they said he loved that film and he'd be happy to be associated with it, even after.
And I
death.
love that they named him Rook. It was another chess piece
to Bishop. Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which I thought was cool.
But he was Ash.
No, I know, but just the fact that they're
like,
naming those synthetics
it was kind of a clever thing.
Now,
chess pieces.
Was it like I don't? If you've ever seen like the pictures from Monster Palooza, there are people who make like there's a guy who made a Yul Brynner from Westworld, like an exact copy of him. Was that what this was? It was. There was very little CGI in this movie. They used a ton of practical effects.
It was a combination. Well, it was a combination of a animatronic and face replacement.
Right. Yeah. The actor has basic. I mean, you can look him up. He has some, facial similarity, but not a ton. And then they did a basically a deep fake thing.
Yeah, he didn't need to look completely real because he's like a busted up.
He's a busted up.
He is, and that was the thing. And they had his character down perfect. He was exactly the same. He was that corporate programmed, amoral android, and we've seen different versions of that android over the years. But this took us back to the original, and perfectly. If they'd had him do anything other than he did, it wouldn't have worked. And I thought this was really good, and that could have ruined it. And I know some people didn't like that element. I thought it was
really
great. Yeah, there were a number of people.
I thought they did a great job
it.
with that.
And the fact that he could be such a menacing character when he can't even move. Like he was sitting on his torso was on a desk.
I also found
but he
it
was
ironic
still menacing.
that pretty much the same thing happened to both versions of him. He was pretty much cut in half.
That's what those aliens do.
Yeah.
You know what I thought was really cool too? There was obviously a lot of gross out stuff.
Yeah.
But
I thought it wasn't as bad as I thought it was.
I thought the creepiest scene in the movie was when Andy rebooted and his head went back and his eyes rolled back and you saw the Weyland-Yutani logos in his eyes and he was stuck like
great,
that.
Though.
It was awesome.
I also I think he
That's
did.
worse than the woman giving birth to an
No.
alien egg.
I'm saying aside from the gross out stuff,
Right.
To me, that was such a menacing moment.
I thought that was clever. I thought they portrayed Weyland-Yutani very well. I really liked the idea that, for 40 years we've been told that they wanted this thing for weapons research. Okay. And here we find that you've got either a different plan or a competing group within Weyland-Yutani basically wants to build miners, wants to genetically engineer miners that can survive under any conditions. So it's, I thought that was an
better
interesting
equipped
spin.
humans for life off of Earth.
Oh yeah, that's what I'm saying. But I'm saying, but again, basically, they're going to make a slave population that
they're up to no good. All the
here's
time,
the other
these
problem I
bastards.
had with the movie, and once I did a little research, I got the answer. But we'd never seen face huggers without a queen. Like they were on the planet in the first movie in eggs that were laid. And in Aliens...
I'm not certain what the answer
I
to
got
that
the
is, 'cause I'm
answer.
curious
I got the
too.
answer.
Okay.
I think, can I just say, I didn't look it up.
Sure.
I think that they were the little ones in the pods, okay, they were simulating or in the packets, the little...
No, there's actually an answer in the film.
They were taking the DNA and they were growing them in those pods.
That is a potential explanation, but not the right one. So anyway, to finish my thought, I was a little annoyed just thinking, where the hell did all the facehuggers come from? Because we've only ever seen them come out of eggs. When they went looking for the Nostromo and found the crystallized alien, they went
the shuttle.
They went back to the original planet that the Nostromo went to, and they harvested those facehuggers from the eggs. That's how they got them.
They did.
Where did you read this?
Well, I saw it. I watched a couple of reviews that did deep dives on it, and they talked about the name of the planet that was in the first Alien movie, and it showed on one of the computer screens that they had been there. So it seemed that that's where they got them. But that whole thing, like, once we saw them in that cryo room, I'm like, where the hell did they get all these from? We've only ever seen them come out of eggs, which you need a queen
I'm not
for.
sure. I'm not sure I buy that explanation. I think they were doing experiments and they just grew them.
Did they say something at some point?
Yeah, no, because it's like.
But the crew of the Nostromo reported what planet they went to, so it's presumable that the company could have gone back to that planet. And
it's presumable, but it's just as likely that if they
LP426.
had DNA, they could start growing these things. Right? They had them in like little pods. They weren't.
But where they explain it, the alien that they had
is the one that Ripley shut out of the airlock.
Yes,
shut out of the thing. Now, I just read something, and I did not.
Because you could see when it was hanging, you could actually see the harpoon.
The thing, it was still alive. But supposedly, that doesn't make sense, though. I closed this thing down, and I have to read the article. But supposedly, what's the name of the shuttlecraft?
The Narcissus.
The Narcissus.
Is that what it is? Yeah. It's in the background. That doesn't make sense, though.
I'm telling you,
they claim it's in the background.
This is a science lab.
But it would get destroyed then.
And they got rows and rows of these pods. I think they grew these things from the thing's DNA. That's what I think. But
we got to dig into that.
Yeah.
Because that's...
yeah, I mean, I'm not saying I know for sure that my explanation was right, but I got it from a pretty
Barry,
deep
if they
dive
went back to the planet,
YouTube
why
video.
wouldn't you have Why wouldn't you have the pods? Why wouldn't you have a room full of pods?
Because they don't want the room full of the pods. They just need the facehuggers in the
You're saying they went back to the planet and they figured out how to extract the facehuggers, and then we're incubating them.
They weren't incubated. That room was a cryo freeze room. They had them frozen.
They
went into that room to get the cryo fuel.
Yeah.
And they were frozen, and they didn't unfreeze until they raised the temperature in there.
Anyway,
okay, yes,
that's something we got to dig into. But I do think it's cool that they found that alien, and that's sort of started this whole research.
Oh yeah, and then we get to see the chunks of the Nostromo from it having been blown up.
Right.
Here's
a question though: is why I get why Weyland-Yutani might not have they might have abandoned that station, but why were they just going to let it with all of that in there? Why were they going to let it crash? You would have thought that they would have done something to remove those samples from that station before it got destroyed.
Well, wait. I thought they caused it to its orbit to decay.
Here's what I think. I think they see this derelict ship, okay, that's going to crash into the ring, and they made the assumption that it was abandoned Weyland-Yutani property that they were allowing to scuttle, okay? When they get there, they actually find that it's a research facility where everyone is dead. And it's
the kids did, but I'm saying, why did the company itself
that's what I'm
allow
saying,
this
I think
thing to get destroyed?
Everybody on that thing, okay,
I don't think they knew that it was.
That's what I'm
maybe
saying.
not.
Why would Ash
Everybody
tell
on
them?
that top secret
Rook.
thing was dead, and it was drifting into the. It was drifting into.
And
the,
it was all shut
Yeah,
down.
that's what I'm
Even
saying.
Rook was
Right.
shut down.
Yeah,
So
with
the other
all
thing-
the systems off and everything. Yeah, I think it just was. It lost its orbit and was going to go into the thing.
The other thing I got from watching the deep dive was apparently there's a shot of the outside of the station, and I didn't see this in my theater because the lights weren't dark enough. But where on the outside of it, it had the names Remus and Romulus, and
Yeah,
the
there were
years,
two-
yeah, I
the
saw there
years
were
they
two
were
sides of the-
established, and the year one of them was established was 2112, which I just thought was awesome. There's a Rush reference in there.
Oh, okay, okay. Anyways, yeah, no. So it was, but again, like I said, I thought it was cool.
All my nitpicking aside, I thought it was a very enjoyable, fun movie.
And the atmosphere he created, it was amazing because a lot of that they built that Jackson mining colony set on a soundstage. I think.
Oh, I heard an interview
Oh,
with
well-
Fede Alvarez. He said that the inside of the station they built as a practical set too, from end
Yeah.
to end.
Yeah,
and the Corbalin or
Yep.
whatever was a built ship.
oh yeah,
They built
No,
it. It was not
like I said,
CGI.
They did the work for this. There's no question of that. It wasn't showy. It wasn't like, I mean, some of the other films were just plodding, predictable, and it was so like this was. I mean, you knew what was going to happen. You knew, but they took things like zero gravity, and they used it in ways we've
That was
very
ever.
cool.
We've never seen zero gravity in one of these movies before.
They also
And
did
they-
a cool thing with the pulse rifle. They didn't just redo the pulse rifle. They
That-
actually
exactly.
added functionality
They-
to
Well,
it.
made
it's a precursor to the pulse
precursor
rifle.
to the pulse rifle. They made it larger, heavier, but cooler in some ways.
Yes.
because it wasn't meant to be compact. Wasn't compact.
That's what's
infantry.
hard to do. Just like with the phaser, the Strange New Worlds phaser has to look like a precursor yet
and-
modern.
And I think they did that, and they gave it features we haven't seen, but it's also a third larger. So
I think the white is cool because it's not a military.
right, no, it's
just
like a
sort of
security weapon.
Right,
It's a-
but they
it's a
said
science
they made the
station
comment,
weapon.
"Oh, but it's the same model that the Space Marines currently use, or something like that." So
Yeah,
they
yeah,
tied
again-
it into
Well,
that.
back then.
yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's yeah, no, I thought that was really cool, and again, it's kind of like a heritage thing. The floating acid blood, brilliant. So, I thought that was
Yeah.
just so freaking cool.
And they even gave themselves a problem to work out when that you can't use the pulse rifle because if you shoot
Oh, yeah.
the aliens, they're going to bleed through the hull. And I was like, at that point, I'm like, please tell me they are not going to show us a new pulse rifle and not
Yeah.
have anyone
Fire
fire
it,
in
right.
this
Yep.
movie.
No, I thought all that was really good. I enjoyed it. I really did. I think that they did a good job of because you kind of knew that this had to end the way it ended. Like you figured one person, maybe two, were going to get away, but everybody had to die. And they kind of did what they always do in the good Alien movies, which is it ends, but then it doesn't quite end, and then there's another battle.
Oh
That's
yeah,
what
and
Mark
again,
said
it's
coming
just
out of it.
just
He's like,
the
it
way
ended like 6 times.
The way she left was an homage to the original film. The hybrid creature had
The
characteristics.
offspring, yeah.
Had characteristics similar to the creatures from Prometheus or
Resurrection.
No, that was actually
Prometheus-
tied into Prometheus.
back
Oh,
to
Prometheus.
To the
Prometheus, those original-
engineers, yeah.
Yes, yeah, those creatures. So there was a lot. I mean, they used all the DNA from this whole thing, and just
I was
infused it in
surprised to
different
see
ways.
any references to Prometheus in there at all, but I thought that the very little bit that they didn't
They
distract.
took a little bit,
Yeah.
which
Yep.
was good.
Yep, I
And
think
that
it was,
that creature at the end, that was
Yeah.
another thing that could easily have been CGI, but they got a 7'7" basketball player
Yep.
to play that guy,
yeah.
which
Yeah.
was like they didn't have to do
And
that.
it looks like the guy.
It does look like him.
I saw a picture
but it
of the
didn't
guy.
need to be that, and I was glad that they rather put a guy in a
Yeah.
suit
I
than
agree.
CG it.
I agree.
And the girl was good. The girl played
was
Rain
great.
was good. I mean, she wasn't over the top,
He had worked with her before, and he actually the director, and said he actually wrote that part for her.
Really.
Yep. So
Well, and when you think about it, she was they didn't need her at all. She was only there because they needed her brother. And
Right.
they knew the brother wouldn't go without her. And she ends up being the lone survivor.
But also, the whole thing is the bargain that she makes to get off that planet is to leave him behind.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's like the core conflict in her throughout this whole thing, to the point where she goes back to near certain death to recover him. You know, when he's near.
That's because he threw that line at her a few scenes earlier where she's like, "I can't believe you would do that." He's like, "What? Leave them behind?"
Yeah, I know that, but I'm saying,
yeah, it was a great line.
I'll also say he did a really good job being the two versions of himself.
Yeah, I thought that whole little computer chip in the neck really, really smart in how you could take, because if that Andy was the guy he turned into from the beginning, they would have never done this.
Right. No,
he had to
not.
sort of be this damaged, bumbling kind of android, and then they made him smart, and then that was really clever.
I also really liked just the whole, like, she had earned her way off the planet, and in a very Andor fashion, how they reset their sentences.
Oh yeah, but it's also this. I mean, this is the way, like, back in the 19th century, they would have company housing and stuff like this, and they would charge you just slightly more than you made for the company housing. It was just but everything. I mean, we know this is the despicable corporation, and they continue.
They made
to
them
prove
even
that.
worse. Yeah.
So,
for sure.
I see the nitpicks. I think as compared to any of the other successor films, this was the most enjoyable, and it probably wasn't the most creative in the sense that they tried to go outside of the box and stuff like this, like going to the prison planet and all this kind of stuff. But this was pure aliens.
Well, when we throw around the term,
between, it fits between those two films, but thematically,
and it could bring a new audience.
We throw around the term fan service as either a positive or negative thing.
Right.
But to me, this is fan service done right.
But what I'm saying is, this is halfway between Alien and Aliens thematically. Okay?
But it's going to serve both purposes. It's going to bring in a new audience, and it's going to not piss off the people who love the first two Alien movies. And I think
I'm curious.
it achieves both of that.
I'm curious if there are hardcore Alien fans pissed off. Again, I've read a handful of things. I haven't heard anyone say anything, but I haven't read a ton. But I think they did a nice job, and they could easily do 2 more movies if they want. I mean, they could live in this 20-year before Alien universe, time frame for a couple movies.
They totally could. I love when they had the little reference in the screen to the Nostromo, and they had the pilot's picture. They didn't have the picture. They didn't have Ripley's picture because that wouldn't have been. Ripley was basically a contractor, was an add-on. Okay, you would have had Dallas's picture or somebody else there, and I thought that was good. Because she was meant to be basically the least important member of the crew.
No. In Alien, she's third in command.
Right. No, but I'm saying she's in kind of the expanded story. She's like the last person signed on, and it's it's kind of like but she's not the person that would be representative if they're going to put somebody on.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
no, they did a nice job.
So the budget for this was $80 million,
80,
and it's so far worldwide it's up to $226 million. So
and it should keep going.
Yeah,
they did a nice job with it. I think they. I'm curious how many people who saw this will go back and watch the first couple at least.
I'm going to make another Star Wars comparison here. Okay. Here's what you do with a 20-something cast, and you make them interesting and engaging, and make you actually care.
But that was also the key to Aliens, was that he does it in Terminator also. You spend enough time getting the audience to care about the characters before you start killing them off.
Right, but what I'm saying
I
is,
wish some of their accents
in
weren't
the
as heavy.
Acolyte, you had actors of the same age that you just didn't see what I'm saying. I'm saying This
Yeah,
you
well,
knew who
yeah.
some of these were archetypes, they were whatever, but
I personally think they did in Force Awakens. You may not,
But
but I
too
think
many
they
of
did.
these
Oh no,
types of
I
movies,
do agree in The Force Awakens. I'm talking about specifically the Acolyte, where it
but
was
too-
like
Yeah.
these
Too many
were
of these
both
movies-
designed. These were both designed to. I don't think The Force Awakens was as targeted at a younger audience because they had the hooks to the older audience. I think both this and the Acolyte were designed for that younger audience to draw them in.
But the Acolyte failed for a million other reasons.
Oh yeah,
other
no.
than just-
But what I'm saying is, these characters, you knew who to like, you knew who didn't like, you knew who they were very clear, and it was.
Well,
but they were also
they spent time setting up the characters, and too many of the, especially if you just look at the Alien movies after Aliens, they don't really set up the characters.
No, they don't.
They introduce them in 30 seconds, and then they throw them into a situation, and then you either get killed or whatever. But like they spent the time setting all these characters up so that when they were in peril, you all of a sudden cared about some
the
of them.
first
And
10 minutes, you figure out who the woman who survives is going to be, and then it goes from there.
right,
Yeah,
this was good.
I think so. I was. Very
I'd like to see it
pleasantly
again in
surprised.
a darker room. I really feel like I missed some
I'd
of it.
like to see it again. I wish it would come out on video sooner,
Yeah,
but who knows with that kind of thing.
I think the last thing. I think the mining thing was another perfect example of like that made the mining ship, the ore hauler that they used was perfect, and it worked. It was It seemed exactly like what it was supposed to be, and so
It was pretty cool how the ship is running into the rings of the planet and just getting chewed apart.
Yeah.
That was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's scientifically accurate, like Robinson Crusoe on Mars.
Well, you
but
can't have
very
that
few
kind of
films are.
authenticity and everything. So,
but it was pretty cool. That's not something you see. It's like, oh, it's gonna crash into the planet. Like, no, this is a way. It's like it was just getting like ground away.
Well, and
which
that was
pretty
because
cool.
I one of the things I love so much about Aliens is that they have the runway to get off the planet and get away without being in too much peril, but they can't because they have to go back and get Newt, and then you've got the whole explosion thing. And this was their way of giving you an additional risk for them with it being different.
And there was definitely the same sounds of those alarms, like, planet will explode in 3 minutes. It's like there was a lot of that.
There was a
same
lot
stuff,
of visual
which
language too. In one of the reviews I watched, they actually even showed the guy that did the original design work for Alien and Aliens. They took a lot of his imagery and icons and stuff and applied them into the sets and the ships.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of stuff that looks. That's what's cool about it. It went back, so it really did a good job, just sort of visually and, lack of a better word, mechanically, that it does live in that universe between those 60-ish years, and it's sort of right in the middle of that. So there's no reason why you wouldn't have the same kind of
and
door
that's
panels.
one of the reasons why I wrote
everything.
one analogy where it was like it was that very comfortable glove that fit, and the technology looked right. Everything, it was like even the things you hadn't seen before made sense where you hadn't seen,
But the computer screens looked like the right kind of computer screens.
Absolutely.
Nothing was more advanced than it should be. The mother screens were very similar. Like they did all of that fit in perfectly.
Yeah. Okay, go see it. Let us know what you think. All right, let's go. What's in the box?
Show you with the box. Who's in the box? What's in the box? What's in the box?
Regular Joe's What's in the Box.
Barry, what's in the box?
Simple one this week, but something I didn't have in my vintage Star Wars collection. A Star Wars action figure collector case from the original movie. Got it for a good price. I've got it full of my extra figures right now, so you hear them rattling around in there. But it's in good shape. It wasn't super expensive, and it's something I didn't have. So added
Very
it to my
cool.
collection.
What are the little slots in there?
Yeah,
for
it's
each
if
figure?
you crack it open, and there are 2 trays.
Oh, trays.
That each
okay.
have
Yep. Oh yeah.
full of figures. But yeah, it's a tray, and then you lift it out, and there's another tray in there, and that also comes out. I think it originally came with an insert that went over the top with pictures on it and stickers that you could put labels for the names of all the figures. This one doesn't have any of those, but
it works.
it's okay. Yeah, it displays well, which is all I cared about. So that is what's in the box. Todd, what's in the box?
So I mentioned before, one of my favorite book series is the Expeditionary Force series, which revolves around a group of humans involved in an intergalactic conflict who discover this alien AI, who is this all-knowing, complete asshole AI. And so this, Karen got me this for my birthday. This is a notebook of terrible, awful monkey brain ideas, which is what the AI refers to as the ideas that the humans come up with. Because the AI can't, basically is programmed, can do whatever you tell it to do, but can't come up with ideas on its own as a preventive measure from it to going rogue. And so, anyway, so it's this property of the Merry Band of Pirates 2020 or 2030 UN Expeditionary Force Manual, and it's actually a blank book. So it's a blank notebook, but it's just very cool because it does tie in. It actually looks like a military service manual. But yeah, so anyways, that's
cool.
That's that.
I think in all the years of doing this show, this may have been the first time my dog walked in while I was recording.
I know. I've never seen him walk in. Did he leave?
Yeah, he left.
Josh just closed the door.
Yeah, Josh just closed the door. The dog pushed the door open. So
I have a movie prop that I did not get in an auction. I actually bought this in a Facebook group.
Oh, wow.
That's a poker chip from Casino Royale.
Oh, cool.
I made the...
I figured you made the display. It looks very
We
very
looked at
familiar.
a group of those at one point.
Yeah. So, it's funny. This guy I sort of know, we've actually done a deal or two in the past, was selling them, and they were decent price. I mean, it was just this one. I made this laser cut sort of. It's actually fit into a piece of acrylic, and it has I don't know if you can see the little border
And
around
do
it.
you have that on? Do you have
wanna-
that on green felt?
I have that on green
That
film.
well done. Well
Yeah,
done.
that's perfect. Yeah, it looks great.
And I watched the movie figuring out, and then went to 3 stores trying to find the closest shade of green felt.
Yep.
It's more of a forest green.
Yeah.
It looks like a
than
pool
sort of-
table felt.
Yeah, green.
Yeah. That's cool.
And it's interesting. It does have a certificate of authenticity from Eon Productions. They actually gave those out in different things. So there's a James Bond store owned, I think, by the production company. That has all kinds of stuff. But a couple years ago, they had an advent calendar, and poker chips were in one of the slots, like real poker chips. There's hundreds of poker chips from the movie, if not thousands. So, but the crazy thing is, so that was fine. It was not expensive. Those plaques from the movie, so they use regular chips and they use plaques. There's like, I have one of them. I have a replica of one of them. But there's like $1 million chip. Those plaques go for like $6,000 in auctions, which is ridiculous. So anyway, this satisfies my one James Bond actual prop.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Something else comes up.
That's perfect.
So, yeah, I was happy with that. It was like one of those things like, yeah, I'll buy that. And that's it. So, I don't know if we talked about it. We're going to do a Robinson Crusoe on Mars recap. It may not be next week. It may be the week after or something. We'll figure that out.
If you haven't seen it,
we'll get there.
Don't bother.
I don't know where you see it.
If you really want to play along, try to find
anything.
a copy of it. But I don't.
It's actually on
recommend it.
something that you got to pay for. But anyway, check that out. We'll figure it out.
Last week I mentioned Johnny Quest. The Johnny Quest. There's no place that you can watch Johnny Quest without having a. Anyways, it's for subscription. It's for pay everywhere. It's going back on Max for the 60th anniversary.
Oh, cool.
So, it is.
So
Did you start your rewatch yet? Because you mentioned last week you were going to.
I'm 2 episodes in.
Okay.
It's not as bad as I remember. I will say the worst stuff is the Bandit Comic Relief stuff, which is kind of silly. But it's.
I think I have the DVD someplace.
Yeah, that's what I'm working my way through. And but it's great. It's so incredibly ahead of its time, but also perfectly evocative of the '60s. So, yep.
Cool.
Sweet.
All right, next week, something completely different. And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening.